Have you ever looked at two things and just wondered, are they actually connected or is it just a coincidence? Like, does a person's favorite movie genre have anything to do with their choice of pet? Well, today we're unlocking the statistical key to answer exactly that kind of question, the chi-square test.
This question, right here, is at the heart of everything we're talking about today. It's what our whole Tao Salon is all about. When you see a pattern in your data, how do you know if it's a real, meaningful relationship you can act on, or if you're just, seeing ghosts in the machine? That's the problem we're going to solve. So welcome, officially, to the Tao Salon in statistics. The whole idea here is simple. We're not just going to crunch numbers. We're looking for the harmony, the flow between them. We want to find out if one category of information really moves in sync with another, or if they're just doing their own separate things.
Okay, let's make this super concrete with a real-world example from a study. Imagine we've got data on a father's occupation and the number of kids in the family. Is there a genuine connection there? Is there a pattern? Or is anything we see just pure coincidence? This is exactly the kind of puzzle the chi-square test is built for.
So to find the answer, we need the right tool for the job. And in this case, our key, the tool that unlocks this mystery, is the chi-square test. It's designed for one specific purpose: to see if a real, statistically significant relationship exists between two different categories.
So what is this thing really? Well, the chi-square test is what's called a non-parametric tool. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but it just means it's a really flexible test that doesn't make a ton of assumptions about your data. Its job is to figure out if there's a genuine statistical link between two variables that are sorted into groups.
And the secret sauce of this test? It's the kind of data it works with. First, it loves categorical data. So we're not talking about numbers like height or weight. We're talking about groups, like job titles, favorite brands, or yes/no answers on a survey. Second, it works with simple frequencies. We're just counting how many people fall into each box. And because it's non-parametric, our data doesn't have to fit that perfect bell curve, which makes it an amazing tool for all the messy real-world information out there.
All right, before we can run any test, we have to get our data organized. And for that, we use a special kind of canvas called a contingency table. It's really just a simple grid that lets us lay out all our counts so we can see the patterns at a glance. And here it is. This is our contingency table. It shows the actual real-world data collected from 650 families, all sorted by the father's job type and their family size. Every single number you see in this table is what we call an observed frequency. It's what researchers literally went out and counted. This table right here represents reality. Okay, now we get to the really clever part of the test. The genius of chi-square is that it compares reality, the numbers we just saw, to a hypothetical world. A world where there's absolutely no connection at all between a father's job and his family size. We build this hypothetical world using something called expected frequencies. An expected frequency is just a calculated value. It's the number that should be in each cell of our table if the two things we're looking at were totally independent, if it was all just random chance. So this is the central showdown right here. On one side, you have what we actually see in the real world, our observed data, and on the other, you have this what-if world, what we'd expect to see if there was no relationship at all. The entire test is just about measuring the size of the gap between these two worlds. And that's the key takeaway. The chi-square test isn't magic, it's a measurement tool. It boils everything down to a single number that tells you how big the gap is between reality and random chance. A small gap means they're pretty close, but a big gap suggests something interesting is definitely going on. Which brings us to the main event. We've measured a gap, sure, but is it big enough to actually matter? Is it large enough for us to confidently say, yep, there's a real relationship here, or could it just be random noise? It's time for the statistical verdict. So for our data, after all the number crunching is done, we get this number, 63.41. This is our calculated chi-square value. This is the official measurement of that gap between our observed reality and the hypothetical world of pure chance. But, 63.41 is just a number by itself. To give it meaning, we have to compare it against a benchmark, a threshold. And here it is. 26.30. This is called the critical value. Think of it as the line in the sand. It's the point where the gap becomes too big to just ignore. For our result to be statistically significant, our number has to be bigger than this one. And here is the moment of truth. Our observed value, 63.41, is way, way bigger than the critical value of 26.30. We didn't just step over the line, we absolutely leaped over it.
So, the verdict is in. The formal way to say this is we reject the null hypothesis, which is just a fancy way of saying we're rejecting the idea that there's no connection. The conclusion is crystal clear. Based on this data, a father's occupation and the number of children are statistically related. The pattern we saw was not just random chance.
Okay, so we found a connection. The harmony in the data is real. But what does this actually mean in the real world? Let's wrap things up with 3 key truths about the chi-square test that you can use in business, marketing, or any kind of research. First truth, chi-square is the absolute master of categories. It's not for things you measure, it's for things you group. For a business, this is huge. It means you can test if customer preference for, say, brand A versus brand B is linked to which part of the country they live in. That's pure gold.
Truth number 2, always think of this test as a scale. On one side, you've got your real-world data. On the other, you've got what random chance would look like. Chi-square tells you if what you're seeing is so different that it tips the scales. For marketing, this is a game changer. Did that new ad campaign actually cause a shift in customer choice, or was it just random noise? This test will tell you.
And the third truth, and this is a really important one, chi-square is like a smoke detector. It's fantastic at telling you that there's a fire, that a relationship exists, but it doesn't tell you how big the fire is. It doesn't tell you how strong that relationship is. It's a test of significance, not strength. It's the perfect first step to flag that something's there, but you'll need other tools to see how much it matters.
So, let's recap. It's 4 categories. It compares reality to chance, and it flags significance, not strength. If you understand these 3 truths, you now have a seriously powerful key to start unlocking the hidden patterns all around you. And that leaves us with one final thought. The world is just full of data, sorted into groups, customer segments, survey results, you name it. The next time you see it, just ask yourself, what hidden connections might be hiding there in plain sight, just waiting for the right key to unlock them? What will you find?